So, good afternoon and welcome to the panel discussion AI and Connectivity. My name's Mark, and as you could see, it's not valid anymore. I got my haircut, and if you want, you can call me Lore. No, Lore, she's sitting in front. She asked me whether I could moderate that panel, and I'm happy to do that today. I think we have some fascinating and interesting speakers on the panel. But instead of me introducing you, maybe you can do it better yourself. Jenny,
I feel the pressure for an interesting introduction now. I'm Jenny Lindqvist. I'm heading up Europe and Latin America from Ericsson's side, and also a very proud partner, of course, of you in Swisscom. So working very closely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm Gerd. I'm the CTO and CIO of Swisscom. I think that's an interesting combination. On the one hand, I run infrastructures in the network. On the other hand, also the software part, where actually the topic like AI fits to this. And it's also in the area, and I think that's a great combination, and we'll come to this in the panel discussion. So I'm looking forward to that.
Hey, and I'm Ankur. I lead Google Cloud's telecommunication industry products and solutions. And I'm very excited to be over here and looking forward to this discussion with you all.
Thank you. So let's get it started. AI and connectivity. AI being the buzzword, the obvious question, maybe to start with, is, did it already arrive within the connectivity business? Maybe Jenny.
Fantastic question. I mean, we see AI all over Davos, for those of you who have been walking around. So there's definitely a hype. It's definitely speeding up, but it's not absolute new. And maybe commenting on what we've done from our side in Ericsson, we started a few years back developing our own large language model. And mainly we started applying this AI and GenAI for the internal enterprise type use cases. But we're also, of course, working with AI very much integrated in product development, also in how we work with operational efficiency, both internal for us, but also how we work with US customers. And we have one example of that. We actually have some demos upstairs where we demo some of the new things that we see coming out on GenAI that is already in development. And one example is something we call conversational AI. So it's basically the ability for someone wanting to know the status of a network to ask what's the status of the mobile network of Swisscom in Davos today. And you could see the different spots. You can, with GenAI, find if there's issues and also both reactively find a way to solve them, but also, even more important, of course, proactively see how the patterns will be of people moving and how that will impact the network, and hence how we could use that to optimize the network. And also commenting on the partnership again, I would say, maybe Gerd, you will talk more about this, but we already have a lot of AI, I would say, in the network, both in terms of performance, 4G, also for 5G, and also in terms of energy performance in how we have set up the network, both in products and also in operations.
That's right. No, we have a lot of use cases, but as was Mark asking to say, hey, have you done already AI? Maybe let's start with this. I think the hype at the moment is coming since ChatGPT started, but that doesn't mean that AI started before. But we as a telecom operator, we really have to run a very complex environment. And you all know, when we want to have stable networks, if we really want to have a connection everywhere, it's really difficult to administer and adjust that. And especially with the jump from 4G to 5G, within 3 years, we actually have doubled the number of cells. And actually, it's nearly impossible to do this in a manual work. And as you said that together with you, we have very early started to develop machine-trained models actually to optimize our networks. And one thing what we are doing today is that our 4G network, the optimization of the 4G network, actually is done completely automatically with the help of these models. And as you said that also in the area of sustainability, I think a lot of people are usually very much afraid if it comes to radiation or other topics. But when we look into 5G, now with having the technology, we really are able to concentrate the beams and follow people, and also then have a lower energy consumption for this. And for this, you really need to have these AI models running. And I think that's a great topic. And talking about use cases, so everyone who's using our network has a live use case and can see how fine this works.
Yeah, and exactly as Gerd was saying, we've already been seeing widespread use of AI in networks today. You were talking about the case where, let's say, a RAN, the radio access network with its many different parameters that can be optimized for improving energy efficiency and improving and then meeting the sustainability goals. But we see similar use in other parts of the network. So for those of you who are deeper from the networking background, like when it comes to routing protocols like IGP, again, there are lots of parameters that one can play around with. You can use machine learning to with very little impact on latency, have significant reduction in the amount of network that you have to build out, and therefore the loss that you experience on the network. That's just on the network side in terms of operations, but then in terms of planning, we have seen, and in fact, like both on our own network, but also working with our partners and customers, telecommunication customers. We've been looking at how they've been using AI for much more accurate forecasting and making sure that rather than reduce or wasted inventory or overbuild networks, you can just build the right amount of network for what the needs are. So that's just on the, let's say, the network side. You mentioned earlier, Jenny mentioned about how this is also helping out on customer experiences, or for that matter, tailoring what offers to be offered to customers, specifically in some of the markets where there are hundreds of different offers that a customer could be using. Sorry, is there some issue with my mic? Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So I think, in summary, I do think that
things already running. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. In summary, I do think that artificial intelligence has been used both on our own networks, but also in other connectivity networks for a long time now. Yeah.
I mean, since we already touched upon that, right? All of the AI hype we are now experiencing has been really created by the advent of ChatGPT, so generative AI. And you said you have a conversational AI saying where you can ask the status of our network, which is a simple one because excellent would be the answer.
It's always excellent.
For that, we don't need AI. But other than that, do you see some use cases of GenAI within the context of running networks and maybe beyond?
We're so polite, Mark. You need to name us.
Yep.
Maybe Gerd?
Yeah, maybe I start with this from a user perspective on the topics. I think there are many use cases when we think about GenAI. I think I maybe start also with the easier ones, not just using your models actually, which helps us to run things, but the topic is we have a lot of knowledge to deal with. We have a lot of engineers, and when there's topics to do, it's always the question, hey, what's the latest information? What are maybe insights? Topics happens, we follow up with things. A few engineers knows this, but we want that every engineer is knowing this. And I think a topic like GenAI, having a ChatGPT function with all the knowledge inside, really helps actually the engineer to say, hey, what do I need to do to administer something, to remove an incident or something, to do this much faster. And that's one topic. The other topic is also, and that's maybe then a bridge to you, is that we actually try to design our networks more to become cloud native, to softerize something. When you think about network, usually you think about an engineer who's doing scripting in the machines, but we want to softerize everything. And when we softerize everything, then we have CI/CD pipelines and all the topics. And when you have it completely software, that's also the efficiency gain to say at the end, I also want to prompt that. I want to say, hey, how do I need to set up and optimize the network? Maybe not using development tools, but really using a prompting that makes it easier for the engineer to do this. I need to have lower skill levels to do that, and there's huge potentials reaching that. And I think that's the topics and the beauty we're all working on. And actually, I'm curious to hear the opinion of Google about that.
Yeah, no, and so sort of like building on what you were talking about, especially as you start talking about networks becoming more more software defined, there is clearly an augmentation function for the software engineers in the organization itself in terms of writing code faster. But I think one thing that we have again seen a fair bit is, or that we are experimenting a fair bit is around config generation. So especially when you have many different providers in the network, each using their own sort of like configuration language, can you make it simple so that the operator, the network operator can specify the configuration that's needed for a particular network element, and then use these tools to generate the configuration for that particular vendor that is in the network. That's just one case in terms of again simplifying or speeding up some of the functions. The other one, especially around generative AI, you talked about how it is helping the employees learn about the network. But then in our operations center, one of the things that we have started using this for is quick root cause analysis. So hey, you have an outage, and now there are lots of different documents that you want to go per use. Like, how can you instead use, we have this product called Vertex Search. How can you use effectively search over your internal databases, including, let's say, postmortem documents from the past, network documentation, and so on and so forth, and quickly try to diagnose the situation. That's more sort of like on the network side and building the network side. Again, as we start moving more towards the customer experience side, there's of course like the many queries, customer queries that can be answered by chatbots, and so that's certainly something actually that has been used, that has been getting used by customers. Previously, it was more rule-based. Now it's becoming more GenAI based. And then around assisting the Oh, sorry. Everyone has the same ringtones. So, and conversational, so assisting the agents in contact centers, especially when they need the synthesis of that particular case that they're dealing with very quickly, so that they can provide great customer support. So these are like just some of the use cases. One other actually fun one that I just remembered was there are lots of legal contracts or invoices, both contracts on one hand and invoices on the other hand, when it comes to all the different network elements for any large-scale network. And so there are times when you want to just make sure, hey, you're not getting double invoiced, right? So making sure that you use LLMs to assess if something like that is happening, or when you get the invoices, some are getting faxed, some are getting generated by computers. Like, how do you synthesize all of that information? So sorry, like these are there's some on the operations side, some on the building side, but then some just purely in terms of like running the network business that we are seeing.
Thank you. Maybe you said you've been developing a large language model as Ericsson. Can you elaborate maybe why you did that, or what use cases you had in mind or have?
Yeah, and also had some thoughts on the previous one as well. So we started before we talked about ChatGPT. Of course, that was the big breakthrough. So we started as a leading tech company, of course, looking into this before, and now that we have this fantastic fast acceleration of AI that we have in GenAI, of course that's also integrated in that model, so we can make sure we use either the open sourced one combined, or when needed our own closed one. And like I said, the first focus is more for internal use. We have it in research development for simpler, more automated programming tasks, or it could be helping employees in sort of day-to-day questions. But maybe on the use case side also, since the topic also is AI and connectivity, right? And it's fantastic when we see how AI will really transform so many industries. And there's so much talk this week about how AI will improve operational efficiency, it will help in healthcare, it really spans across so many industries. And of course, in order to realize that, talking about digital twins, talking about this AI use cases, both on consumer and business and society, we're gonna need mobile networks that are high performing, that are programmable, and that are catered for this capacity as well, and also different requirements on what we need on the edge as well. So I believe it's important also to remember that in order to realize all of these benefits on green transition also, we will need high-performing mobile networks. And I think that's very important, the work that we do, and making sure that we plan for the networks of the future to make sure we can help realize all of these other benefits and use cases.
I totally agree, and I already got the feeling that I'm not necessary here anymore, because you already preempted my next question, which is, we're talking about AI and connectivity, or in connectivity. And the next question, the obvious one, is to turn it around, right? Where do we need special features in connectivity to enable further use cases that might be limited today or need certain features? I don't know who want to take.
Maybe start from a telco perspective before maybe hand it over to Google. But it's a big topic. Now I think whether you always think about that, yeah. Usually when we have AI, we somehow need to have the compute power. So everyone is talking about NVIDIA and having all the GPUs and so on, but they're standing whatever in the cloud or in a data center. But usually you don't need, let's say, the results of the AI in the data center. You need it where you are, or where manufacturing are, where the industries are, and you somehow need to bridge this. Somehow you need to have access to AI, and that's also where telcos are coming to this. And that's a big topic to do this, that on the one hand, we're actually using AI, I said that before, to optimize our networks, to come to high-performance networks. On the other things, it's also a combined topic. You know, you have a manufacturing company, and the manufacturing company wants to run an AI, and it very much depends on the latency. You need to have single-digit latency, and when you want to run AI, you have that inside the plant. You have huge infrastructure inside the plant. No one wants to have that. They want to have it maybe with Google or with other hyperscalers and so on. And that's a topic for also connectivity, and to build then the solution for this, to make it happen, that we can reduce the latency. I think here is also a big use case for using AI to optimize this, that you really can get connectivity at scale. Now, what you see when you think about hyperscalers, now I get compute and storage at scale. I can do this. But usually today, connectivity is not at scale. You get it fixed. You get your 1 gigabit or 10 gigabit package and so on, and someone says latency is physics. But actually, that's not true. And that's, for me, a future story also about that AI will need a lot more connectivity. We always think about compute and we think about the nice solutions, but we also need to think what is really the necessary infrastructure behind that to let cars run autonomously, to maybe have healthcare everywhere, to have farming businesses and so on, or like I said, manufacturing. And I think that's a thrilling topic for me. And you're the one who has compute and storage. What do you think about the connectivity to bring your compute and storage actually to the users?
No, I actually think you hit upon the point that I was going to address, but really, here's the way I think about it. When you when you're watching, let's say, cacheable content, right, video, there's a trade-off we always make. Hey, how much do we store centrally? How much can we store in a distributed way? And that the trade-off is between storage and it's a cost, basically a cost optimization that we all do together, like the content providers as well as the networks, in terms of how distributed the deployment could be. And there's a trade-off around storage costs and network costs, right? Now, when we start, there are many AI workloads where where there's not that much, let's say, bandwidth going. Let's say just metrics, time series metrics. Over there, I think you can do those things much more centrally. However, when it comes to, let's say, very large data streams, high bandwidth video data streams, and let's say AI processing needs to be done over there, then that becomes, again, the same problem this time around, an optimization between compute and network. So from my perspective, it is less about latency, but still an optimization between how deep do you do the compute, inference, let's say, and how much do you carry it over the network. So, but yeah, along the same lines, it's that trade-off really around. And in those cases, I do feel that there is an opportunity, especially when the costs, or for whatever reason, including in some cases privacy reasons, if it is not allowed to share video outside of a particular enterprise setting, then the compute, the inference can be happening on the deeper inside the network, and so that's the sort of like the optimization play between compute and connectivity.
Cool. So, I mean, the obvious question, maybe to since you kicked off that question, so to say, you can close it as well. Is that something we talk about in the future, or has the industry somehow been prepared for these cases where we need more connectivity in the plant or others?
I believe there's, I have a concern for Europe because we haven't, as sort of a continent or as a group, I think Switzerland and Swisscom, you're an example because you were very early out with 5G, and you have also built up and invested in a really high-performing network, which has also been acknowledged externally with the benchmarks and the fantastic performance you have. I believe there is a concern from our side for many of the markets, but overall for Europe, that there's too little investments in the network in order to be able to cater for this more advanced use cases that we have. And we see maybe other parts of the world leaping ahead. We have India as one example, started very late on 5G, but with a very, very clear ambition as a nation to drive digitalization as a core agenda across all of the industries and also in the public sector. And I don't see that for Europe as of now, and I think that's a topic also maybe for this week as well. So I think there are parts where we have this, but in general, I believe we have a structural problem in Europe, and that also impacts the investments on the 5G that will be needed in order to build these new use cases. And why is that important then in turn? That will mean that it will be difficult for Europe to keep up the competitiveness with other markets. And this will be definitely an area to compete in. If you're not on this, if you're not front runner on AI, you're going to be a lagger in many other industries as well. So that would be my answer, that we have some pockets, and I think what you've done and what we have here in Switzerland is a lot of competence as well in AI. It's more consciousness also from listening into your panel yesterday from the universities as well. I mean, it's going to be a lot about building up the competence both on the developer side, on the industry side, but also on the user side. So that needs to happen also from the government perspective to make sure that we have both networks, but also that overall agenda for building up AI and leveraging it.
Yeah, I think a very interesting, necessary perspective on AI, right? So maybe catching upon that even a bit further. Obviously, AI is a hype on the one hand side, but it does create fears as well, or concerns at least, right? And where we see take-ups in certain areas very quickly, privately, for example, with ChatGPT, enormous numbers. We see companies being a little more hesitant, having concerns on what will that be. How do you see that in the context now in for example, running a network or creating software? I think there we have very different areas, and I'm pretty sure as Europe we will play a role again in how to manage that. But maybe I would be interested, maybe you kick it off this time. Mm-hmm. What's your perspective on these concerns, and what is necessary, and what is in the end our responsibility as industry to make that happen, to unleash the power by managing these concerns?
Look, I was actually over here in the previous session also, and there were some thoughts shared about like, hey, this is we need to do this both in a responsible way, but also embrace the opportunity. And I think that's really it's a careful balance. We need to do it thoughtfully, but there is a huge opportunity ahead of us. We should not lose that, but also at the same time not do it responsibly and make sure things like ethical AI, biases, etc. Those are all things that we are taking care of. And look at the other. Just sort of like the other theme that I have seen is people just having we need to still even with all these AI capabilities, I look at those as assistants, right? So what that allows us to do is, or what that allows people to do is to do the things that they're doing faster, more efficiently, and maybe not do some of the grunt work that they're doing and let the computers do it, which is what computers are for. So I think that's again we need to just make sure that we are building these tools which augment human creativity and are able so that they are able to focus on the things that we are able to focus on the things that we are best at. Mm-hmm.
I think when you're a customer of us, you trust us, you rely on us. Yeah? When you say, I want to call a friend, I want to call family, you want to make sure that you really reach your partner. Yeah? And one step further, if there's an emergency and you really have the need to call emergency, you want to make sure that actually you can call emergency. Now, I said before, we use machine learning also to optimize our networks. And of course, there's the downside of AI that there is hallucinations inside the system. And these hallucinations actually can create these incidents which are not nice. So as you said that, it's really a topic to be responsible in using these technologies and to make sure that you actually have a firewall inside there, or you have your backup system inside there that also controls the AI. You know, that's a topic to deal with this. And it's not only thinking about the AI. We need to see AI is based on data. And that's the tricky part also of the question, because we collect roughly 2 to 8 million data points per second. That's all the calls we have and so on. And that's data that's under regulatory. You want to be safe. You don't want to make sure, hey, who's all tracking my data with whom? Here, so there's a data privacy thing. But on the other hand, we want to use these data also to further train the models. Yeah? And we maybe are not even allowed to give it to Google or someone else because there's a regulatory topic. And it's not just the network information, it's also your as customer information or in customer care. And we want to have the relations for this. And that's really a big topic for this, also to deal with that, coming to having the right governance for this. I was on a panel this morning talking about AI governance, and I said it's really difficult these days to make sure that you are compliant, because technology is progressing much faster than actual regulatory is there. And it's very much important that from the scratch, when you start building an AI, you document everything what you do, and to make sure that it's actually inside the range of regulatory topics, and that you make sure that you have an early warning system to remove biases. If not, you cannot run a stable network. And that's topic. Yes, the fears are there, and it's good that the fears are there, because when we fear also the downsides of AI, it means we can give you the best services and that you can trust us, because we really use this in a responsible way.
Yes, and I would say well put, Ankur, in the beginning there on this sort of balance also on of course trust security being absolute key, but also this opportunity that we have. And for both for 5G and for AI, that's an integral part of the product development at Ericsson. So it's not, and even more important for AI, it cannot be an afterthought. It needs to be something that's integrated all the way from R&D out to product development and to operations. So that is our focus, to make sure that we have that integrated. And then I believe there's a fantastic potential on the innovation side, and it's also important that, of course, we will have to to make sure there's regulation and that there's sort of toll gates included, but also to regulate and focus that on the use cases that are high risk, rather than hampering the innovation on the technology side, where we have all of the potentials. I think that's important for the regulators to make sure we have the right focus. It has to be there. We need to have a framework, but how do we best set that up to balance these two as well, not compromising on trust and security?
Thank you. Maybe a certain aspect in the same domain, so to say, right, is the human factor, ourselves. I mean, there is a big fear on, first of all, what will this machine do? We touched upon that a little bit. But the other fear is, what will be my job tomorrow? Will I have a job, right? So managing AI, introducing AI into our industries, into our companies, is a big transformational journey. Maybe you can start it off. You're doing it at Ericsson, right? What do you encounter? How do you address these fears? And what is your answer and maybe idea to do that?
It's a fantastic question, the people part, because we talk about technology and we get really excited about that. But the people side of AI will be absolutely critical for us to be able to leverage this and to build that competitiveness. So from our side, we're investing a lot in competence in AI, of course, both in research development, also in operations. But it's not only going to be, and that's going to be, I think, a scarce resource overall. I mean, this is taking off really, really fast. So this will be a critical skill on the global employment market to make sure we can keep that, and keep that also in Europe to make sure we build that. But also on the people side and on that on the topics that you raised, it's also going to be on the user side to make sure that how do we educate, and that's all the way from school age. I mean, looking at my kids now, this is a natural part of how they interact with their phones. It's been there their whole life. So we need to make sure that the teachers are also ahead of the students, which was not the case for the first year, I think, of ChatGPT when it was released. So also on the user side, both on the consumer side, all the way from the younger up until us using the phones, but also when we see this coming into business and society, we also need to make sure there's the right competence on the user side to both leverage the potential, but also manage this trust and security that we talked about.
Thank you. Maybe Ankur, because I think that's a special question to you as well, is being seen as a leader in AI and a leading technology provider. Nevertheless, I assume you will still have people with the same fears, right?
Yeah. So I think a part of it is what Jenny already mentioned, that a big part of this is in all industries, including our own company, like there is skill training, upskilling. That is where we are education. These are great learning opportunities also for people and for them to become more productive, for and focus on the things, as I said, which they are best for, as opposed to doing some of the grunt work that I talked about. Like, hey, if someone is just reading through reams of a case report just to figure out what the exact issue is, as opposed to getting the synthesis of the issue and then actually bring in the human touch in customer care, I think that's a net positive both for the employee, but also for the customer. I think there was this anecdote, like I'd heard it somewhere, which it sort of really resonated with me. Until aeroplanes were there and flights were being taken, no one knew that there will be a job called pilot, an air pilot, right? Or people who will be in airplanes, who will be serving the customers who are over there. Look, new jobs will. So the one is existing jobs. People will be focusing on things that they are best for, and new jobs will be created based on some of the new tools and capabilities that we are collectively able to deliver.
Gerd?
I think I really find this is a fantastic question. I think we are sitting all in the same boat here, because it's a huge cultural change inside the organization besides the skill change. You know, I said that before, changing from scripting networks and the classical works engineers did for 20 years. Now actually it's more the software part where you really need to have different skills, different topics for this. And that comes with the fear, you know, that the people say, will be used and so on. Now, on the one hand, you see although technology is progressing very fast, it's not progressing that fast that you actually say overnight people will not be needed. But the cultural change is there, that people in a technology environment actually need to learn to say that in a technology environment you need to be willing to change. Then you maybe are in the wrong field of work. And that's a culture change to get that into the head. Because now we talk about actual AI and GenAI topics. We don't know how much the technology will progress in the next 5 or 10 years. And there will be the next shift change, the skill change coming. So it's a huge cultural topic. Now where you say, hey, we need to manage this to say where do we find the workforce, because there's a big war of talent to get enough software engineers doing this. On the other hand, actually, how can we elaborate the knowledge of our existing engineers? Because we were talking about AI and all these things, we're talking about data, but at the end, still to build these models, you need to have the experiences of the engineers doing this for 20 years. That's the basis for this. And the people also need to learn this to say, okay, my job is not to do it anymore, like I did this, the scripting. My job is actually to train a system that the system is doing this. So I have more time to think about how I can do optimization and how I can bring this optimization to the next level of algorithm, that you have a, say, up-spiraling topic that technology will help you. And that's the big cultural topic to explain this, that people don't need to fear that. That they actually have much more potential to use their experiences to come to something greater. And that's what inspires me always talking to people to say, don't be concerned. We will not need, let's say, many less people. There's always downsides, but it's not that we really say we don't need the people anymore. Quite the opposite. We need much more, and we really need to bring them on track for everyone who's willing to do that.
Maybe getting back a bit, right? We started with obviously AI being a hype or the hype these days. And something I found quite valuable in understanding whether something is a hype that is sustainable or not is to think about what's the objective of it, right? A few years ago, we talked about metaverse. The answer wasn't that easy, at least for me. So I want to put that question on your shoulders now, saying, okay, why do we do AI in connectivity? Do we do it for saving purposes, or is it more? Is it both? Maybe you have some ideas on that.
Happy to take that on. I mean, as said, there's a lot of opportunities. So of course, one part is the network performance. I believe that's a very, very key one. We see that the opportunities to make sure that we reach better performance all the way from product development and that being installed in the network, but also looking at how we operate the networks. And of course, that also will have efficiencies on the cost side, but also it will enable us to keep up the performance in the networks in a very different way, as that going from reactive into very proactive. And GenAI will help that for us to maintain, and for you to maintain the network and find the faults before they happen and make sure that they also propose a solution going forward. So definitely on the network performance side, also on the operational efficiency will be there. And thirdly, as said, I think also not to forget all of these opportunities that we have that we will enable in other industries as well. And they will not be possible without having the right connectivity in place. So I would say those would be the three.
I think everyone knows this, that there is a huge efficiency use case inside. But this efficiency use case is not just coming because I now do AI, because there's a lot of need for standardization behind that. And actually, when I try to look into our case, it also brings a lot of benefits for stability and reliability into the networks. Actually, the human is reacting much slower than the machine is able to do this. And we all know we make mistakes, and mistakes happen every day. Now, the question is not to say, hey, how we can avoid mistakes. The question is more how we can actually repair mistakes in a much, much faster topic. And today, when there are incidents, you really need to bring all subject matter experts together, that they analyze things, and there's a lot of manual work inside there. And to exclude that manual work, to say, hey, I can orchestrate that I immediately know who's the right expert to do something. That's not just an efficiency case from a saving perspective. That's actually a very important case to make sure that we really have stable and reliable systems around that. And that's also sometimes we forget about this, that automation is not only there to maybe make people redundant, redundant or reduce cost on these things, but it makes it also easier, safer, more reliable. And I think that's an important topic when we should think about technology and future use of technology, because at the end, we all think about AI, and so many people ask to say, hey, when AI is really doing everything, at the end is a new tool. It's really just a new tool which we're using, which complements actually what we are doing. Now, in the past, we were using typewriters. Now we will use text processing and so on. And now we use ChatGPT to help us to process text faster. So that's just a new tool to implement that, and the people need to learn this. It's like first I didn't have a tool, then I need to have a stone, then maybe I had a hammer for this. And that's the important topic to see this, how we are using the tools the right way.
I think you both more or less captured the three themes at least that were in my mind, which were workforce assistance, and that could be whether it's on the network operations side, the legal departments, the marketing department, software engineering, network operations who are writing and pushing configurations. That's one class. The second one would be overall around network efficiency, all the way from planning better, forecasting and planning better, to building out the network more efficiently and then operating it more efficiently. And then the third one was really around customer experience. And those, they broadly just fall in these three categories for me.
But the customer experience, very, very key one as well.
Of course, yes, yep.
So since I know that we're all rushing between meetings, maybe I round it up with a final question. I would be interested, assuming we would be here, let's say, in 2 years' time.
That's good.
What would be the results and maybe the questions we would talk about?
We wouldn't be here, we'd be GenAI.
I still like that personal touch to it. Whoever wants to kick off.
I think what we have seen, the hype is running at the moment about AI, starting with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is not the fix for everything, because it's not machine learning, it's not the optimization, it's actually a new interface into tools. And we start learning and playing around with this. I think 2 years ago, if you would have asked me what is actually the next step I want to do, I would have told you, let's go into more self-services by no-code and low-code, to democratize technology and maybe to give others more opportunities. Now I would say, oh, I was wrong. I'm not into low-code, no-code. I'm into prompting, because it's much more open to do the prompting for this. And I'm not sure how we are going this, because I would say the maturity of the technology will be much, much better. And what we see, I guess, in the next 2 years is a new tailoring of work. Because today we have coders or we have engineers and so on. And I think we will see that we have a new class of people who will be prompters, I would say. But the prompt is not the fix for everything. We will have also people who do more quality control, because whatever will be prompted, someone needs to do the quality control. I said that before. We want to exclude the biases, the hallucination out of the system. And I'm pretty sure we talk about the fact how we actually, which impact does it have on the organization, how we have done the reorganization, and how we have tailored these topics. And don't ask me about the technology. If you would have asked me 2006 whether there will be a mobile internet 2007, I said I don't know. Because we didn't know that the iPhone was invented 2007. So that's something which is, I think, is a miracle for all of us, and we will see in 2 years.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, like AI, we have already discussed, has been getting used in connectivity for a while now. But where I see right now generative AI is that it's beginning to get used. I think really what I would be looking forward to is really it getting into production at scale, and it bringing in sort of the benefits that we were talking about. That is something that what I look forward to. But of course, doing that all in the responsible way that we have already touched upon in the panel.
Yeah, great question. It's difficult to judge in time. I mean, I said we started many years back, and then it has really accelerated. I still believe my best guess, and looking into crystal ball, 2 years' time, we're going to have some early adopters. They're going to be quite far ahead in this, having leveraged this and built it in, talking about enterprises. And then, so we're going to have some more clarity on some successful sort of use cases on these are areas where actually now we talk about the potential. There's going to be more proof points on this is how it's actually going to generate more value. That's going to be in place. I do believe, however, some of the questions will be quite same. So this scarcity or the investment on talent and on the people side, still it's quite slow. It's a cultural journey, like you said, Gerd, so that will take time. And that will still definitely be there, maybe even more so. And I hope also in 2 years' time that there's a very clear agenda from many markets in Europe that this is a fantastic competitive edge, that we have more companies focusing on AI, maybe more new startups in Europe as well, built on this and focusing on this and also generating growth for Europe and the industry.
Thank you very much. First of all, for, let's say, creating the intro for next year. We will just use what you just said and see where we are on the journey. And secondly, for not having conversational AI, but really a conversational panel here. I really like that. Thank you very much for handing over and asking yourself questions. I think that's always easy. And mainly providing us an insight on where we are as an industry, what challenges we still need to overcome, and what possibilities and opportunities we have in front of us. And last but not least, I want to thank you as an audience. You've been phenomenal, very silently listening. I heard no one coughing instead of myself. Obviously, we will be around here, so feel free just to mingle and ask ourselves questions. We heard there are demos on that topic, AI and connectivity. So if you want to see something, this guy here in front will help you to find it. And then I wish you all a great day, great days, depending on how long you stay here in Davos. And thank you for attending the session.
Thank you.